Okay, I reviewed some of that video, and I moved the phone over this way a little bit. And I'm going to try to be mindful at this stage to have this leather not flop. So you can hopefully see the right angle. Let me get this in the middle. Oh, my glasses. I was wondering why I couldn't see the screen. I said I was going to do a little flake here, didn't I? And here. And here. This is a little bit high, so I'm going to put that on hold and I'm going to work down to it. If I'm making a lot of weird breathing sounds, sorry. I hold my breath and when I pressure, subconscious. Probably don't need to on something as brittle as this. I sort of hold my breath when I build up pressure. I didn't realize I was doing that until now. I think I exhale when I push the flake off. I live in Boulder, County, Colorado, so I could probably start classes where we did napping, breathing exercises, and get quite a cult following. Let's do a little bit more work on the bottom. I'm looking at the little bitty spots to push the antler in. I'm making these teeny little dulled areas. I'm brushing these little spots, putting up and taking those little flat flakes. When you work on the tip, see how the tip is pushing in here? I have a gap. You can fold things off, so you want to have that supported right, so it's flat. Probably need a different antler for up there. I review my video and I call this horn. I It's a bad habit. It's obviously it's antler, not horn. This is near the stopping point of this antler. My brushes are going to get less predictable with this broad tip on this. Clean up our mess here now that we've got little isolations. Right. Okay, once we're done with that, this is just one of my punches that worn down. I took advantage of it being drilled, and I've got a little hand flaker. Now I need to know what I'm going to make here. I was going to make like a Scaleron or a Sequoia or an Edwards. Is that? I think that not an Edwards. I forgot the name of the Texas point that's looks like a Scaleron kinda. I'm awful wide down there, so maybe I'll just do like a little side notch. This is probably far away. Let me lean in so you can see this. All this keeping everything even and thickening evenly so that we can do maybe one more set of pressure. We need just one set there and maybe one set there. I'll probably just opportunistically get a couple on this side. Probably ought to wrap some leather around this thing. This is the sweatiest punch. Some antlers, it seems like I probably ought to scrub them. I think this guy was in the greasy weeds rubbing his horns around or something, and this one in particular is more slick than other ones. I'm going to hold it flat out here. See, everything's flat. All right, I'm not putting pressure on this tip, and the hollow of your hand is a bend and break, and I mean, the hand is wonderful to hold things. but when you hold the arrowheads just in your hand, there's usually a natural gap. And so when you squeeze like this down and you push pressure, then you're really just effectively putting bending forces on it like that. So even support is tricky, but I like to manipulate these little... I had a white-tailed deer wad of leather that I used to just make a little pillow and kind of move it on one side or the other that I really like. I couldn't find that for this video. I don't know where I left it. Take a little flake, and I'm going to lower that a little bit. See how I move up? Lower that. Do the same thing. I'm looking right down the edge to see where my next flake is going to go. This is not a good spot. Manipulate that delta, brush up. See now a spot there. The gap. See how I'm supporting it evenly on the back edge, but I know that gap is going in my pinching support is at the back. So that flake can't wrap all the way across, but I've got it gapped up to the point where the flake can go. Oops. My greasy horn slipped in my hand and let's go. I called it a horn again. I said my greasy horn. Oh gosh. I don't edit these videos. If I come off as a weirdo, that's just how it is. We gotta live with ourselves. Might as well not fret. See the position now? I'm gonna turn this around and get a little point. Oops. I got too lean. I stepped it. Uh-oh. You can get, with a good antler and some practice, you can get some really nice patterns on these things. But a lot of times they're accidental because your edges are just so even you're working down. It's I don't think a lot of times it's intentional. And I'm not very good at these things. I've made probably in my life, I don't want to guess how many, but not a lot. Not a lot of tiny scale pressure flaking. And it's partly because it's commercially driven, right? These little points. If I was gonna doing them with the antler, it just takes it just takes a while. And for as little as they're worth, I shouldn't cop to thinking about money when I chip. But everyone, there's only so much enjoyment you can get out of these tiny things, for me at least, anyhow. We'll do a little shearing. I guess that's good enough. So it's got a nice body to it. Let's see what this is. This is a mule deer ulna that sort of worked on its last legs, but I think I can keep a little bit around in the corners. Check for damage and splits. I was using it on something to pick, so I want to make sure there's not any problems with it. I'd encourage people to notch with smaller, different holds and working like either from the bottom like this with the pointier notchers or a different hold. because some of that narrow entry notching, they're probably going in with a spacing their flakes where they have deltas to strengthen, and they're tight enough. They're sort of keeping in mind as where they want to notch their point, to have a flake right at that point. It's narrow, like right here, and a corresponding one on this side, which I don't have. And then, so if you don't, then probably notch the harder side first, so that your entry doesn't roll a thick area and take out the other side. So maybe as I get started here, I'll get a little flake down here and get a feel for this for notching on this material. And then we'll decide where our notch is going to be. Like on this side, it's right there. That's probably a good height. So on this side, it'll be about here. So I might need a flake right here. So we'll go ahead and push everything down. And put our notcher up where we want to get a little flake to get started. See that? It's a little lower than over here. I'm notorious for making cattywampus small points. Well, not notorious, but you know what I mean. I mess up the notches of these things a lot because I do so few of them. Yes. I need the bowling hand dryer handy. And the simulated sounds of strikes when I successfully flute stuff. Okay. Let me do a little more trimming, because now I'm looking at this and it looks like I haven't been able to see symmetry lately to save my life. Making Montels can make you crazy about symmetry. It's like you can move stuff around and you think you did the right thing, and then you just double did the wrong thing. So it's good to look at it from the base. When I can't see straight, I'll imagine the base and then work around there. And then I have areas where I can adjust later on. Generally the tip. So the smaller a point is, the harder it is to tell a lot of times whether it's old or not. Especially with the amount of rechip and African Neolithic points out there. With those guys over there are learning to rechip stuff too. Alright, let's just shut up and do it. I probably won't shut up, but I look at my tip. You need some, you can't have it sharp. You want it thin, but you don't want it sharp. If somebody asked me in the comments, could you do that with a flake? Not really, maybe on obsidian. Although the thickness of a point can determine the notches a lot. If you want to scrunch and crunch something in there, maybe you could get in and relieve and do some drill like flint relief in order to get something, but I needed that little down flake now so I can get in and catch that spot there. Let me lean in and see if we can't get this little pop out to show up. I've got this sort of in the back of my hand jammed in. I'm going to get over here on this rolled wedge to get a little higher. Okay, that got a little pop out. Let's get another one up here, and then we'll come back and get that little one there. I need a teeny one right here where that didn't release. The thing is the brushing and dulling, and then I just kind of load. This will probably be the last notch flake, I would imagine. We can turn and do one more other one here. I think I went in too far. Maybe not. Bones are superior to antler for some things, and this is one of them. That, and they come in arty, narrow, spatula-like forms. I don't know what it's spatula, but you know what I mean, they're flat. This is a wide. It's going to be hard to keep that notch narrow because I've got a... Well, maybe I can if I get in there right. My bottom is, I guess it's okay. Doing a little thinning really helps, pushing those flakes in there at this stage. That way I can just, if I got to do some scrunching and crushing to get in there, it's not a big a deal. Make sure the tool is going to clear right as when you like twist, and I've got my finger up here holding this thing from canting. I think that's the right word. Oh man, look, I scrunched down my notch. Oh. Maybe we didn't do too deep on that side. See, I pushed in and it sunk a little bit, so I'm turning for a fresh spot to get a little flake. I probably should. If I opened those notches a little bit on the bottom, it would look better so it didn't look angly. Patience for aesthetics. Aesthetics on these are... It's what makes tiny little micro steel scrunchers handy to make stuff perfectly symmetrical, because there's variables with the bone where just... That's why I think I need to make more pointy ones and work with more needly rather than wedge-shaped tips to finish these notches. You see that spot where I dented in and then I turned it around? Because I pushed and it sunk a little bit, and I needed a fresher spot. As this gets where really flat, you want to make it just a little rounded. That way it won't flake off. That looks better. There's some awesome arrowheads. Some at Mount 72 Kokia, there's bundles of arrows that were brought for some guy who was pretty important because he had a bunch of people killed, a bunch of women and some guys with their hands lopped off. But there's bundles of all these different arrow points and different materials, and to me it represented probably different groups paying tribute. You know, they brought just bundles of arrows to give, and some of the workmanship on that stuff is like, it's crazy. Okay. You can make a point. You can make a small arrow point and notch it any way you want to, and then consult the archaeological record, and you're going to find dead ringers. So let's... just do a little sharing and put a tip on this. I'm not going to go too crazy. Put the tip on last so it's not too thin and dainty. When you push down, it'll pop off. We use this wedge and just do quick. Hopefully you can see. Reason why I've never monetized my videos is because they all of the nonsense. Well, that, and I just don't care that much. Yeah, there's ads on my YouTube videos that YouTube makes money off of. I don't do Patreon. I don't do any of the other stuff. I don't. And the reason being is that it was hard enough for me to learn a lot of this stuff, and it's not that you have to nap like me, but it's just that I just want to be kind of helpful. And you go to a nap and you're not going to see anybody hardly using traditional tools, so this is a way to inspire people to get into it if they're into the old artifacts, because there's not a whole lot of information that you can get from books. I've worked with so much with these different bones. There's little things that are the material, that are the details of that. If you have to know the edges and the selection of the antlers and the bones, and sort of hard to work with them. And the devil's in the details, right? It's not, and it's so variable. You can get a certain kind of hardness of steel or copper and make dimensional tools and communicate that so much more easily than you can with this stuff. So I just want to help people that are really into this and have as few other people know me as possible, so that I don't. It's hard to sort out with the questions and the help and the emails how to divide your time. All right, if I was doing simple cordage and killing pack rats and doing fire by friction and making tomahawks on TikTok, I don't want that kind of attention. I don't know why I'm talking about that, but you know what I mean. I'm doing this to show that it can be done, and that it's not too arduous. It's subtle. And I'm not disparaging to anyone napping any other way. And if I come off that way, I apologize, I guess. Although I think you have to have thick skin to be on the wide webs. I avoid Zucker land because I don't want to be that wide. But YouTube is a pretty cool little platformer. I found it to be conducive to sharing what I want to share here. Brad, hope you got a deer. And you're probably thinking, oh gosh, here goes Marty again, off on his little rants. I could pick around in this, and it's not going to do much. So let's examine. This Jason Newman found this root beer chert. It's stripy and cool, and it's really consistent. And so I have a couple pieces that I've saved some flakes on to practice with. And I'm probably going to throw some of my other stuff in the turkey roaster. The translucency will change when it's cooked, and other qualities, but it makes it ideal for making these small arrow points. See if we can see through it still. Yep, a little bit. Oh man, this is gonna get better with the pressure. This was a good practice. So things for me to mention to myself is that when I'm doing the major work and this is flopping, you can't see. But I get used to leather, and then it gets really hard for me it gets trained, and I'm used to it. So what I'll probably do is just put a little hole there, and I'll put a little hole there, and just to tie it back. That'll help that. And then what else? Maybe readjust to where when I'm working on the leg, it's a little lower. Oh gosh, was that all out of frame? This might get scrapped, folks. We'll look. So you can have an hour in these little arrowheads. I guess if I was really getting in the zone and making these, I could probably make something like this in 20 minutes. But they're time-consuming little buggers. And they're kind of cool. Oh man, this might not have even been in frame. We'll check it out. All right. Hope everyone has a good day.